Right, I just share screen. Okay, hello, I'm Steve Harding, and this is a summary of a talk I gave with Tim Baldock to the St Andrew's United Reformed Church Guild at Meols on 16th of April. It was titled The Meols Boat Under the Car Park, The Story So Far, and was basically updating a local group from Meols with the latest on our ongoing investigation, together with some background behind the project, which is basically a collaboration between the local archaeological group known as Wirral Archaeology CIC and the University of Nottingham, where I'm based, together with colleagues in Norway and the University of Liverpool, and of course the Railway Inn, Green King the Brewery, and other local organisations. It also involves Chaz Jones, who is our lead archaeologist. And the investigation has involved sophisticated radar techniques, such as ground penetrating radar, core sampling techniques, such as these long metal poles known as Dutch augers for core sampling, extraction, and analysis of the samples deep under the ground. This is not a full excavation because of the location right at the front of a pub, which at face value seems every archaeologist's dream. But unfortunately, because of the disruption this would cause, we've used this combination of radar and core sampling, which causes the minimum of disruption. Although we don't have the advantage of seeing where we're going down, and in that sense, it's a bit like playing the old board game of battleships. And thanks to the fantastic support, we've made some excellent progress, although it's fair to say the project has proven more challenging than we could ever have imagined. And I think there's some way to go yet. Anyway, Tim, shown on the left here from this photograph from 2007, gave the introduction to the talk. And Tim from Meols is a former police officer, but also a local history sleuth. And in his introduction, he explained how back in 2006, the railway had applied to build a porch and patio extension in what was part of the car park at the front of the pub. And because this was a major piece of work, it had to be passed by the county archaeologist. And during this process, an old report of a vessel that was buried underneath was unearthed. And this seemed to fuel an old rumour about an old boat, possibly Viking. Now, Tim knew from the local press that had been doing a lot of research on the Scandinavian past of the area, and so got in contact with me to see if I'd heard about this rumour. I confessed to Tim that I hadn't, but then contacted a colleague at the Liverpool Museum, Dr. Rob Philpott, and he was able to find the document in the museum archives. It turned out that the report was deposited by this man, John McCrae, back in 1991. I'll come back to this other chap in a minute, but this is John, who very sadly passed away earlier this year. And Tim and I had the honour of attending his funeral in January. So it's very much for him and his family more than anything else. We like to solve the mystery of the boat buried under the car park, or now patio. And the report which he deposited was about a discovery made back in 1938, which was the year of John's birth, by his father, John McCrae Sr., who was a workman during construction work when a new pub building was being constructed. And this is the former 19th century building here. And it was decided to replace it with a new one, set more back from the main road. This is Birkenhead Road here, in front of this this fence. Sorry, on the other side of the fence. And these are the foundations of the new building, and it was in the front over here were part of an old wooden clinker vessel. Clinker meaning overlapping planks, and I've got you can see this, maybe not in the light, but you can see the overlapping planks on this model clinker boat here. So it was here that this old wooden clinker vessel was discovered, or part of. And the foreman ordered the vessel to be covered up so as not to delay the construction work by the appearance of archaeologists on the scene. So that was that. Although one of the workmen, John McCrae Sr., had the foresight to make detailed notes about the vessel and its position. And once the new building was completed, the old pub building was knocked down and the whole area in front was made into a car park. So years later, John McCrae Sr. sat down with his son, and the two McCraes produced this report and sketch showing the position of the partly uncovered vessel in relation to the front of the pub, with the boat about 3 foot in front of the pub, about 8 to 10 feet or 2 to 3 meters down, and estimated to be 20 to 30 feet long, or 6 to 8 meters long, with the first 5 foot of it exposed, and the width of the exposed part of the vessel was about 3 feet, or about 1 meter. So clinker built, overlapping planks, and the hull full of blue clay. Now, the report says that it was undamaged by excavation and left in its original state, although later John McCrae Jr. told us that there was a stern post at this end of the boat that had snapped off and was taken as a souvenir, which sadly didn't last long. Anyway, they thought they'd unearthed an old Viking vessel, hence the old rumours. Although this is only a guess, and had to be stressed, the boat was of unknown origin. Nonetheless, the key points in this report are its depth, which suggests it was very old, undamaged by excavation, apart from the stern post, and it was buried in blue clay. And waterlogged blue clay normally provides a superb anaerobic environment. That means oxygen-free, so most bugs can't grow, and hence a superb preservative. And indeed, the great Viking ship discoveries near Oslo, the Osberg and Gokstad ships, also ancient clinker vessels, were found in such an environment. So Tim and I, move this on. Tim and I agreed it would be interesting to investigate this further. At this point, I'd like to explain that I am neither an archaeologist nor a professional historian. I'm a university professor for sure, but in biochemistry. In fact, my first degree was in physics, and I was a contemporary of the chap who invented the internet, Tim Berners-Lee. I think I was about 20, and I was sitting in my college library revising for my physics finals with all these equations coming out of my head. desperate for some respite. And I noticed on the bookshelf above my head, this book here. It was Scandinavian England by F.T. Wainwright, a collection. It was new, the book was new, but it was a collection of papers that had been written back in the 1940s and 50s by F.T. Wainwright. And I was absolutely astonished by it. It seemed that almost half the book was about Wirral. And I was brought up around here in Wirral. I went to school at Overchurch and then the old Wallasey Grammar School. And the book told of how this Norse leader called Ingemund had been expelled from Ireland after a huge battle and how they settled in large numbers in Wirral after a deal with Ethelfled, the Queen of the English. Wainwright then listed all the place names on Wirral with Norse origins. Frankby, Greasby, Irby, Pensby, Raby, Staunton, all these sort of names, Thingwall, and it came to Tranmere. I thought, wow, that's my team, that's my football team. That's how I got interested all those years ago. And of course, research on the Viking Age has become very multidisciplinary, with science now playing an important role. And with Terry King and Mark Jobling at the University of Leicester down the road from us at Nottingham, we led the Wirral and West Lancashire Viking DNA project some years ago. And the last 10 years, I've been one of the scientists developing new bio-based materials for consolidating the Osberg Viking ship artifacts. So that's why you've got a biochemistry professor involved in all this. Anyway, Tim and I got together to explore this further. And through Tim's contacts in the police force, we were able to enlist the services of this man here, Malcolm Wheel, an expert in ground penetrating radar. So police's top expert. And the idea is that radar waves are sent into the ground from this device here, which looks like one of those old Bex Bissell carpet shampooers. So waves are sent down through the ground from here, radar waves, and the time it takes for the rays to be reflected back from a material under the surface depends on the depth of the material and the amplitude or quality of the wave reflected back is a measure of the nature of that material. So by removing, with the pub's permission, of course, all the furniture outside, the tables, the bins, the flower pots and things, we were able to scan and map under the surface. And using the software that comes with the GPR device, the color code is arbitrary, by the way. The scans appear to show part of what looked like a boat-shaped artifact, approximately two meters or so below the surface. So these observations appear to at least support the reports of the McRaes about the existence of a boat deep under the car park near the front entrance. So the key things are it's clinker built with a stem post which had been taken and then lost, very deep and hence very old, and buried in blue clay. Its location was bizarre. It's almost like IKEA came to deliver a boat, but you weren't in, so we left it under the patio. But that's as far as the investigation got. We were advised by Liverpool museums and elsewhere, colleagues at Liverpool museums, to leave things as they were. And leaving a discovery where it was found, in this case apparently secure in waterlogged blue clay, is often the best practice. Archaeological finds are often best left in situ to minimize decay. However, over the years, interest in the mystery of the boat under the car park remained, with its date and origin unknown, and speculation as to what it might be grew. And the initial belief by the McRaes it was Viking Age might not have been that far off. Its depth had to be very old. And I suppose it's worth considering the influence of the Vikings on Wirral in particular, how this influence extended beyond the Viking Age to put the boat in some sort of context. So I'm not saying at this stage it's a Viking boat, but I think the Vikings, because of the clinker bill, did have an influence in one way or the other. And the Vikings were certainly the dominant population in Wirral in the 10th century, at least in the early parts, following Ingerman's largely peaceful invasion around AD 902. I'll say more about this in a minute, but the clinker or overlapping planks design of the boat originates from Scandinavia and before the Vikings and is still used today in lifeboats, rowing boats. In fact, I rowed in what was known as a clinker 8 as a student. And the earliest known clink boat is the Hjortspring or Alsbro boat shown in this reconstruction here. It was found in southern Denmark and dates to about 300 BC. The next that was discovered was the Nidan boat, which was found in a bog in southern Jutland and dates from about 400 AD, with clear stem posts both ends, clinker built, of course, and rowlocks along both the edges of both sides of the boat. And this showed that the boat was designed to be rowed and not paddled. And the Sutton Hoo ship found in East Anglia, or the imprint of the Sutton Hoo ship, was of this type. And then after this, clinker boats appeared with rudimentary keels, which eventually could support a mast, which led to the classical Viking ships, such as the beautiful Gokstad and Osberg vessel shown here on display at the Oslo Ship Museum. Although you can't see them at the moment because the ship museum, the Skiphuset, is closed because they're redesigning the whole museum. And I think it should be open again by 2006. As I said, the clinker design continued after the Viking Age, which I guess in the British Isles was the Battle of Largs, which took place in 1263. And an example of a later clinker boat, not long after the Viking Age, is the Kentmere boat found in the Lake District. Unlike the Lake District, the Viking influence in the Wirral and their skills, such as clinker boat building, lasted long after the Viking Age. Just to reiterate, according to the ancient Irish annals, the Vikings of mainly Norse descent, together with some Irish men and women, came into Wirral in or not long after AD 902, after being driven from their former base in Dublin. There were also Danes, either also coming from Ireland or from what was left behind of the Danish Great Army, which had been raiding in Chester a good decade previously. And we know they were here in great numbers from all the placing evidence in the region. And just outside the fish and chip shop at Irby, which is also a Viking name, which means settlement of Irishmen or settlement of people coming from Ireland, is this classical signpost. And all these names here are Norse in origin or Norse influence, such as Heswall, and with right at the centre, Thingwall, which was the place of assembly. And these are some signposts that we helped produce 12 years ago now, working with the council and Don McCubbin, who was a former councillor. So all the main roads into Thingwall now have this this Viking style road sign, Thingwall, Old Norse assembly field. And this is their place of assembly, a type of local parliament, which most experts believe was at Cross Hill off Barnston Road. And the first leader or law speaker, this is most likely Ingemund, and Domesday records show that at the time of the Norman conquest in 1066, there was still a Norseman, or at least a man with a Norse name, who was the landowner or baron of Thingwall. This was a man called Vetralida, which means from Old Norse winter traveller. By the way, this is private land owned by the Viners, and the current tenant runs a stables, so people can't just wander on it. However, once a year in September, with Tracy, who runs the stables, we have a Thingwall Viking walk, where we can visit what is believed to be the Thing Mound, where the law speakers like Ingemund or Batralida and all the leaders between them would have addressed the Thingmen and Thingwomen all those years ago. And this is a distribution of the major place names in Wirral with Norse or Norse-Irish roots, given in their putative Norse or Irish form. And you can see how they fit into the north and west of the peninsula, with Thingwall at the centre. This looks like a P, it's actually Norse thorn or TH, so Thingwall. So Thingwall at the centre, Raby, which means boundary settlement, at the boundary to the south, and here's Meols here, which was the seaport. Now, I'm not going to go through all these names here. If you're interested, you could buy my book, Ingemund Saga, Viking Wirral, third edition, with tribute to Magnus, forward and tribute to Magnus Magnusson. So I'm not going to go through all the names, but I'll mention one or two. Tranmere, of course, Svartskere, which means Black Rock, which is the old name of Fort Perch Rock. And there's one name here, actually, at the bottom of all this, Daniewella, which we think is the old name of Denhull, which means spring of the Danes. And this here, Langholm, is the old name for Lingham. And Langholm, we'll see in a minute, with its relevance to Meols. Home refers to an island of dry land on a marshy area, and Lang means long. So the long island of dry land in a marshy area. And this is Lingham Farm today. And what's even more interesting, perhaps relevant as far as the boat's concerned, is the distribution of minor names, field names, track names, topological features, which derive from the Norsemen. There's about 500 of these, which persisted well beyond the Viking Age, showing us a Norse dialect was still being spoken through the centuries after the initial settlements. Now, I'm not going to go through all these, but I'll just focus on these two, the cars and homes. There's about 50 cars, or over 50 cars, and over 30 homes marked in red. And you can see how they are distributed. So there's a load around here. This is the fender. There's a load around the fender and its tributaries, but also a load around the Meols area. And this is the River Birket here. This is Lingham here, by the way. I think this is another one here. This is Car Lane. This is actually level crossing between Lingham and Meols and Meols station. And in fact, just by this sign, if you just turn to the left, you'll see here. So Shah, we talked about home. Shah comes from, because our car comes from Old Norse Shah, which means a marshy area or brushwood in a marshy area. And this is this particular car or marshy area here. This is a brushwood, Alna species or something. And you can see the horses are very impressed by all this. And just round the corner from all these boggy fields is the bottom of Pasture Road, which was where my mum used to live. My mum was brought up many years ago. In fact, last year we went back to visit her old house at the bottom of Pasture Road. That's my mum, who's 91 now, still going strong. So now it's worth pointing out that the names for all these boggy areas, all these cars and homes, are purely Norse in origin, and there are no examples of the English equivalents of these names whatsoever in the area. So this showed how much the Norse once dominated here. And this Norseness continued through the centuries. I mentioned this about the minor names, but also proven, I suppose, by a DNA project which we ran from 2002 to 2008. This is the Wirral and West Lancashire Viking DNA project. It was a collaboration between mainly the universities of Nottingham and Leicester, the birthplace of forensic genetics, with Mark Jobling and Turi King, and was focused on DNA from the male Y chromosome, which has passed along generations, and unlike the rest of our chromosomal DNA, is passed along the male line with little or no change, whereas the rest of our DNA is shuffled up between our mums and dads from generation to generation. It's only about 1 to 2% of a man's DNA, but it's a very powerful marker for population ancestry and can be linked with a man's surname. And by sampling men who had old surnames that were present in the area, either in Wirral or neighbouring West Lancashire, before 1600, we could get round the problem of the great population change that occurred in the region after the development of Liverpool as a port. And this study involved a collaboration with a large number of people and local organisations. And with their help and strict adherence for participate to the criteria for participation, that is the surname criteria, it worked. With nearly half of the DNA admixture from all families in Wirral, and also neighbouring West Lancashire was Scandinavian in origin. We got almost the same result for Old Wirral and Old West Lancashire, confirming that the Scandinavian influence in the area continued well beyond the Viking age today. This doesn't mean that half the blokes are Viking, half are not. It means half of the DNA admixture in the whole of the old Wirral or West Lancashire population. So this is the oldest reliable coastal map of Wirral from Grenville Collins and dates from around 1693. And in Roman and Viking times, up until the end of the 17th century, Meols was an important port. William of Orange sailed from here. And the Collins map shows why. This is where our boat is, by the way. So the Collins map shows why, with this natural deep harbour and channel formed between this large sandbank here, Heil Bank, which gives the name to Heil Lake and Hoyle Lake, and the large sandbank at Dove Point, which then extended a mile, maybe over a mile out from the old coastline. This is a deep channel forming a natural harbour, and this deep channel linked up with the Dee, which used to be the main waterway, and much more important than the Mersey. Now, the coastline was changed dramatically after this time with the dredging of the Mersey and the growth of Liverpool. But before that, it was probably very similar for centuries before. And indeed, it was used by the Vikings as a trading point or beach market. And a large number of finds were made from largely the 19th century during a series of very low tides, like exposing the old sandbank. And these finds were extensively catalogued by David Griffiths, Rob Philpott, and Jeff Egan. Finds over a large span of time, but a significant number from the Viking age. And these are some of them here. These are these beautiful Hiberno Norse ring head pins for copper alloy, and these iron objects, this axe head, this bent spearhead, and this shield boss, which are considered to maybe have come from a Viking burial. In fact, we've been doing isotope analysis on these as part of a large Viking Age iron objects research project to see where they may have come from. Okay, so that's the boat in its historical context. It's got to be very old because of its depth and position. It cannot be Roman because of its clinker design, its overlapping plank design. It's unlikely to be Anglo-Saxon because we know from the overlapping, sort of the overwhelming Norse dialect words in the area, all the cars and homes, etc., that the Scandinavians were dominant. So this suggests it must be Viking Age or later, but not too late because of its depth and position. Before we move on, I just mentioned this. Mockbeggar Hall, that's modern Leasowe Castle. I notice here Wallasey Races, or Wallasey Race. Mockbeggar Hall Leasowe Castle was founded by the Earls of Derby, who've got, through the Stanley family, a big connection with Wirral. And here was the site of the first Derby races before they moved to Newmarket and then to Epsom. Right, that's just a little aside. Okay. So anyway, 10 years passed since we did the initial work in 2007, but during that time, public interest in the boat under the car park grew and grew. And that's when the decision was made to do something about it. And the local amateur group, Wirral Archaeology, or Wirral Archaeology CIC, as they are now known, got involved and joined forces with Tim and myself. Rob Philpott, who had then moved from Liverpool Museums to Liverpool University, also got involved. In fact, Rob and I have a £10 bet as to what the boat might be. And one of the first things we had to do was to get a new set of ground penetrating measurements. So we were back in the patio area again, clearing the benches, tables, flower pots and things with the permission of the railway, of course. This is Tim here. Then we enlisted the services of James Slater and his assistant Paul, professional ground penetrating radar experts from PM surveys based near Queen's Ferry. And you can see how these devices have progressed from the Bex-Bissell-like scanners to something that looks like something out of Robot Wars, but the same principles applied as before. And these are two of the many radargrams that were produced from the scans. And you can see these anomalies here from what we've marked as regions 4 and 3, which look like they may come from some sort of wooden object, wooden vessel under the surface, and about the right depth, 2 to 3 meters below the surface. So it looks as if the boat, or at least parts of the boat, were still there. The next job was to recruit a project archaeologist, and we enlisted the services of this man here, Chas Jones from York, who is well known for his work on the Fulford Battlesite project and was also working with Wirral Archaeology CIC on other projects. So Chas was enrolled, and the first job we had to do was to visit the brewery, Green King, at the head office in Bury St Edmund, and we secured permission to have access to the front of the pub for a few days in February last year, about 5 days. That was all, between Valentine's Day and some other big function that was occurring the following week. So just before the agreed date in February, we got the team together and had a training session on how to use the Dutch auger. So we showed it was a 2 persons were needed, and it was quite tough using a sort of rotating motion to get the auger into the ground, and then we showed the principles of sample collection, core sampling from the auger. So that was done, and then we set up outside the pub in agreement with the brewery, and the relevant parts sectioned off so as to ensure safety of the public and customers to the railway, which was still open during the duration of the investigation. And Alan Roberts and his excellent team of 2 lads from Roberts Paving, they were responsible for removing the slabs before we put the paving slabs, before we pushed the augers through. We had to do this row by row. So 1 row, did the augering, put the slabs back, and do the next row, and so on and so forth. And as we moved across, the tent would move across. So in that way, we minimized the area which we were excluding from the public. And it was also Alan and his 2 assistants, fantastic assistants actually, that were responsible for checking the positions of the cables and supplies, particularly near the front entrance. Actually, I think this was probably Tim here, not Alan, but Alan was in charge of this operation anyway. And there's 2 of the many volunteers, Carl Mumford and Alex Ogston, operating the auger. And it was very hard work, as I said. So we had to rotate, not literally rotate the auger, but rotate the team of two to give everyone a breather. And as we were pushing the auger in, Alan Roberts' team put these sort of guides into the into the soil, so as to the surface, so as to make sure that the augers were going in straight. So we plan to work systematically through the patio. This is an aerial view of the pub, and this is the patio area here. This is the front porch, and these are the window bays here. So we had planned to work systematically through the patio area, and worked out that with a prevailing wind, if we were things went well, we could cover most of the area by using this strip by strip technique, as long as we didn't encounter any serious problems. So what did we find when we went down? Well, we did the initial work away from the front entrance. So we did this region here, and then when we reached the front entrance area, the site of interest really, this is what we found. We discovered that the site indicated for the boat was covered by a slab of concrete that was about 1 meter, 1 to 2 meters under the surface. So we're not quite sure why this concrete slab had been put there by the workforce all those years ago, back in 1938. It might have been an in situ preservation. This is what was sometimes done, whether an archaeological find was made, that they put some concrete down to what was thought to protect the find, or it might have been put there as a base for the construction crane, which is in operation in 1938. And also we found that the drains, the gas supply, electric supply, and things were all in the area that we wanted to drill. So the slab and the supplies made it very awkward. And the other consequence of the slab, which is a bit more disturbing, is because of its position. It may have sank onto the substructure below and crushed the boat, but also disturbed the preservative blue clay, anaerobic blue clay layer, which the boat was in. So the concrete slab was really an unwelcome find. Anyway, we worked out a way of getting round the slab and also the all the supplies by going in not vertically, but going in obliquely at an angle. And that took us a lot longer to do. And sadly, another consequence of that was that eventually we ran out of time. So we weren't able to do all the area that we wanted to do. And that meant we also missed out on part of the area which we thought the boat was. So this is roughly where we think the boat, the entire length of the boat, including the area which the McRae's had sketched, the uncovered area from the 1938 sketch, but also the rest of the boat. And this area here might have also not been covered by the slab, but we just ran out of time, unfortunately. But we were able to recover wood samples from around the area of interest, and these samples, which were in the clay and silt and things, had to be cleaned. And because of the delicate nature of the wood, the cleaning process had to be done in a very careful way. And this is this ingenious contraption designed by Chas, which he called a mist spray bench set for gently cleaning core samples by passing a gentle spray of steam through the samples. We could gently clean off much of the clay, and then the samples were taken to my labs at Nottingham for further careful washing, preparation, and selection. Some of my students helped out here. This is Lachlan, one of my MRes students. This is Chas. And we also measured the pH and salinity of the surrounding materials to put the wood finds in context. We examined the samples using digital microscopy, and then established that we had wood fibre that were clean, and the wood samples extracted were fully labelled so that the position in terms of the SJ coordinates or position at the front of the pub was known precisely. And so we were able to collect a number of samples, also some controls. These are some of Chas's samples from Fulford. So the dried wood samples were put in these plastic sealed reagent tubes, and then they were ready for sending off to our collaborating labs in Oslo and Trondheim for analysis, for species analysis, and for carbon dating. And then if we found that we had proper planking wood that corresponded to the boat, then we were going to do other tests as well, state of preservation tests using what's called pyrolysis, electron microscopy, microbial analysis, carbon-13 stable isotope analysis to get possible origin, and so on and so forth. But the first thing was to establish the species, to see if we had planking wood, and then to establish the date. And what we found was that all the wood samples that we had, apart from the Fulford control, unfortunately were not planking wood. It was from the species Ulmus, which is a form of brushwood, and it was dated to 600 BC and before. So it seems what we've done is that we must have missed the boat by going in at maybe too deep an angle, and what we must have picked up was some ancient brushwood. So that was interesting to say the least. So in some ways it's interesting in the sense that what we might have found is evidence of an old marsh area that was but we didn't get planking wood. So what have we discovered in those few days? We haven't solved what the boat was yet, not yet anyway, but it's been successful in the sense that we've established the context of the find in terms of the environment, substructure, pH, and salinity. We've established the difficulty of the task in hand with the appearance of the concrete slab over the area of the vessel that, according to the McRae sketch, had been exposed. We've developed a method of working around the slab and the supplies by going in obliquely at an angle. And then, although we appear to have missed the boat because of the limitations of the angle we could go in, we discovered the remains of brushwood in the area underneath the boat, whose depth corresponds to about 600 BC. So, what next? Well, what we still to do is finish up the analysis of the core samples. We took many samples, and we still have to do some more analyses on those. And with permission from the railway and Green King, consider going down for a few more days next February, perhaps, with a more targeted approach. So we know what we're going down to now, and focus on long augers and core samplers, which will allow us to go in at a shallower angle, and going in at this shallow acute angle to try and sample the area directly under the slab, and then focus on the areas we didn't get time to sample last time, which is that hopefully these parts are not covered by the slab. And I think we have to, there is a possibility now, although we think the slab has damaged the wood underneath it, so there may not be much left of those areas covered by the slab, because not the damage to the wood directly, but the damage to breaking the preservative anaerobic blue clay area, which has that protection, oxygen-free protection, that might have been disrupted back in 1938. So the areas exposed and disrupted may have decayed. So when we do go in like that, we may not find much left. But we're hoping the part of the boat which was not uncovered by the workmen in 1938 was not exposed to oxygen, was not damaged by the slab, and we're still very hopeful of finding some intact planking wood in those regions. And also, from part of the core samples, Chas reckons he's got evidence of an imprint anyway in the blue clay of the planking area. So it may be possible to construct a model of what the boat might have been, even if we don't find any significant amounts of planking wood. But that's very much a worst case scenario. I think we need to go down again with the permission of the railway. So I'd like to now take the opportunity to acknowledge a large number of people who've been helping us with the project. And apologies, I haven't been able to list everybody who's been helping us, but just John McRae, Stuart Pears, who helped us make contact with Malcolm Wheel all those years ago for those initial scans. Lisa and Sharon at the railway, Green King, James Slater, Graham Burgess, the Oslo Skip, who's it, my colleagues there, who've been working with on the Oslo, the Osberg, Save the Osberg project, preserving the artifacts, who've been helping us with the species analysis. Susan Brabach, Jeanette Buseko, Ben Philipson, Martin Seiler at Trondheim, Rob Philpott at Liverpool, and all our colleagues at Wirral Archaeology CIC, my lab, the University of Pisa, Kelly Weston, all colleagues who helped with the core sampling event last year and the sample preparation event last September, Alan Roberts and his excellent team, Ollie Hansen, Keith Banks, and some of the media who've been covering this, and then all those who donated to the crowdfund appeal, which has helped to finance this work, and the universities of Nottingham and Oslo also providing some financial support. And we're still, of course, welcoming anyone who wants to donate towards the project. So if you'd like to donate to the rest of the project, then if you go to this page here, or simply Google GoFundMe Meols Boat. And if you'd like to make a comment or contact us, you can comment in the YouTube comments box for this video, or alternatively, you can send us an email. This is my email address here, and we'll get back to you. So thanks very much.